So here you can see we're seeing the sharing hierarchy. This one is saying a full access and integration user is saying a read-only access, and how it is being shared. You can see in here view. Here this one, because they are the owner, that's why the relationship is a self. That's why they got access. And if I want to see integration user, how they got access, because they are administrative users. Why this is happening is because this user don't have any role, only they have this full access, and this is from a profile level access. They're getting a access. That's what they're saying, administrative access. We'll discuss like what is administrative access now. Okay, but it is not discussed with any of the sharing rule. Okay, then I want to see how to make it as a sharing rule. Let's go to this user and assign a role of what we created, then only you see a difference. We go to this user, we don't have any role here. Let's add a role to this user. What is we are using? A director, channel sales, and save. Okay. And is there any other users in this group or not? Let's see at the assign users. Sorry. So there is no other users also assigned to this group. Assign users to role. Okay. So okay, let's directly go to the users and assign this. Users. Just I'm going to this user and see if I can edit. I want to make it as a channel sales. Channel sales and save. Okay. So now I have two members in this role. One is a admin and one other is a security user. Okay, here if I refresh this page, now you can see there's a one more user called a security user. So to the security user also now they got a read-only access, because now he is having a role which same as the owner role. Both are having a same role, and I have written a sharing rule saying that both of them has to share the records when they are on the same role. It's saying the reason for sharing is a custom object sharing rule and relationship with the role member and about the access read only. This is how you can see the sharing hierarchy of a record and how it is getting shared and who are all the users interacted with that sharing rule. Okay, so what we've seen is a owner-based sharing rule. Okay, now what else we have? Can you see my screen? You can able to see, right?
Yes.
Okay, the next one is a criteria-based sharing. So this one is the owner. Who is the owner and what is his role? Based on that, we share the record. But second thing was based on a criteria of the record. There is nothing related to the ownership, but I wanted whenever a record made certain criteria, I want to share the records with the users. Whenever there is a criteria of the record match, those records I wanted to share. For example, if you're having records coming from a location, for example, like a city, or a street or state. Based on that, we have a user who is dedicatedly work for particular regions or cities. Then we can use certain criteria. Or the example is whenever you have a support team and they're having some specialization skills, hardware, software, or like if it is a hardware, specific hardwares, like if it is a laptop, for example, keyboard, a screen, a battery kind of stuff. If it is software, then OS or drivers or any other applications, those and antivirus kind of thing, all is a IT kind of stuff. So if you have a specific problems, cases raised, and you want to share among the decide the owners based on a specific problem, that is based on a criteria. Let's see how a criteria based sharing can be done. Okay, let's go. What's the navigation? Go to setup and go to sharing settings. And the sharing settings, which are the object we're doing, just select that object. Go here. Already we have a owner based sharing rule, and I'm going to create a new one, which is called criteria based sharing. And just creating. Here you need to choose a based on a criteria and on record. When you select your state, okay, when you select a state and then search, and then share with to whom you want to share with, public group, role, and subordinate. So far, if you observe correctly, you're going to share with all the three, public group, role, and role subordinates. You might have get an idea where we use a public group and role subordinates. Okay, and what you're missing here is a queues. We'll tell you where we're going to use a queues. Okay, before we complete it, we'll give a criteria and then we'll select whichever you want here. Let's say I'm selecting a public group and I want to share with this public group called my group one, and you can define the access read only and save, and it will take some time to reflect the records. That is how a criteria based sharing rule can be done. In whatever the sharing rule, owner based or a criteria based, you're going to share to a role or a group or a role and subordinates. What is the difference between a role and role and subordinates? Role means who are the users having that role only getting shared. Role and subordinate means all the users having the same role, and what are all the roles reporting to this. That means the who are the beneath his role and who are all possessing that role. Everybody will get access when you mention it as a role and subordinate. Okay, public. Now we see a queue. For example, I have the store. Okay, and I have the owner is who is the owner over here. So I don't have owner because it is a master data relationship. Here I have owner. Here I have owner, and I want to make what are the user. I see only the users. I don't see a queues here. See, only users only I get it. But if I go to a case, because I created a queue for a case object, right? So if I go to a case, and here I want to change the case owner to a different user. Here I see two options here, users and queues. So I see a queue. What is the queue name? Remember what is the queue name we gave? EQ KSQ1. Now KSQ1. I can make this KSQ as a owner of this KSQ, or I can change it to a users also. Okay, that is what how ownership is. But when I look at other objects, I will not get it. But if I add this queue, add one more object saying a location, Walmart location. Location. Location or this one, sorry, Walmart location. And so I added a Walmart location, also selected objects and did the same. Previously, what happened on location, I was not able to change the ownership. Let's go and see whether I will be able to change the owner on this location or not. Okay, previously I don't see a option called a queue. Now I have a queue options and I can see this queue, and even I can change the ownership also. When we define at the queue level which are all the supported objects, then only we can change the ownership to a queue. Okay, now one more thing I want to display here. Whenever we create a queue supporting to an object, what will happen was there's a list view that will create for this with the same name as a queue name. And here it will filter the data which belong to this queue. Okay, that is how a default behavior is. Whenever you create a queues and to which are all objects it is supported, it will create one list view with the same name as a queue. Okay, and it will say ownership as a KSQ. Okay. Now, so when we use a public group and when we use a queue. So queue is what we're using. We're using it basically to control the ownership of the record. And the queue members, who are all the members of the queue, they can have visibility to this record. All the queue members can access this record. And if they want to pick up from the queue, how they pick up, they will go to the record and they will say change the ownership to themselves, change owner to myself, example here, and do a submit. Then what will happen is queue members will not they'll no longer see this case. Why? Because they're not the owner now. There's an individual user who picked up the case, so it'll no longer be in this queue. So that the scenario says like when we need a common queue temporarily to notify all the queue members, and whenever a individual is picking up the work, so that there is no duplication of work. So in this queue, I have 10 members and there are hundreds of cases are getting created assigned to this queue. And whenever one is started working on it, no one else need to work on it. So how system will know? Whenever you change the ownership, then it will automatically remove from the queue and they'll no need to work on it again, and it will be not visible in the queue, so others can pick up what are all the unassigned cases. That's how queue can be used, a temporary access to a group of users. Whereas public group, you need a permanent access, or it's not like a temporary, but they reference the data and they have visibility the data permanently. It's not temporary. They need it because of their analysis, or like they need the data permanently shared with a group of users, which is not temporary. Those kind of sharing rules will go for a public group and roles and role subordinates sharing rules. And whereas a case queue, it does not need any kind of a sharing rules and all. By making the owner as a group of users as a queues, then automatically all the queue members will get access to it. And when somebody in the queue is picked up, nobody else in the queue will be no longer have access to that record. Okay, and now last one is a manual sharing. Okay, manual sharing is something like what we can say, which is not permanent and which is not a group of users. But for suppose I am the person owning this record, but there's no like defined business rules. But I want to, like, I am the owner of this case, and I want to now share to other users for now, just for one time. How I can do is by doing a manual sharing. So if I go to a record and I click on a sharing, not sharing hierarchy, if you go to a sharing, there you can pick the users. So whichever the user you select here, you will select the user and select the actions level and do a save. And this is called a manual sharing. Okay. So I have a user. I want to share is a read-only access and do a save. So this record is being shared. And if you go and see a hierarchy, what is the access? Okay. Now team also got access now. What is that access? Let's see there. There are two ways the team got access. One is because of the queue, they are the owners, they got the access. And another is a manual sharing. So to avoid confusion, what I'll do is I'll change ownership to my ownership. Okay, then we will see the hierarchy. Now, team, I don't have. Let me share again manually. Share with the team, and save, done, and see the hierarchy. Now the stream has a read-only access now. And if I go to queue and say, what is the reason is manual sharing and self and read only. This is how we can do a manual sharing. The manual sharing is allowed only a user level. If we want a user level, share the data to the other user or a group of users or a public group or a role or role subordinates also can be shared in a manual sharing. This is like manually doing. Usually manual sharing is very less oftenly used, very lessly used, and which is like just a navigation how users have to do. Just we need to educate them, but nothing a Salesforce developer or Salesforce admin will not do a manual sharing, or it could be sometime a request come up with saying like, okay, I was not able to see this record. Can you make that I can see the records? Only me. only for this records, then we do share manually those records. Okay, it's how a manual sharing has been done specific to our data. Okay, then on top of it, we have a profile and permission sets. Now here is a kind of administrative access, what we control at a profile and permission set. These are all like a data security, right? Like whatever we have a combinations and permutations like either OWD or sharing rules or grant access using hierarchy or a manual sharing. Everything we do on a data level, right? Now, in the object or sorry, on profile and permission sets, we have a combination with the object level access as well. So in profile or permission set, what are all the access for an object level? Object level access. What are all the object level access we have? There are two access for object level. One is a basic, another is a administrative. Administrative access. In basic, we have a read, edit, delete, create. These are the basic accesses. And administrative accesses are view all, modify all. Okay, now let's see. Read, edit, create. So what are the basic level access and what is the administrative access? In simply, administrative access overrides all your data security. That means view all is overrides all these data security and even so view all what it can override if it is a private then only view all can override. What actually if a profile having a view all permission for an object, that means all these profile members irrespective of a OWD and all sharing rules, they can see all the records, only read only to the all the records. But if your OWD is public read only or public read write, there's nothing is overriding here. But the minimum level of access itself, public read write. So in the profile, if you're saying view all, it doesn't matter because the minimum level of access itself, it's more. You are not restricting. So the intersection or like when you compare the data security and administrative level of access, whichever is sorry, if administrative access is more, then only it will going to override. If it's a modify all, whatever the OWD is given here, this profile users, only this profile users will be able to see all the records and edit those records when they're using a administrative view all or modify all. When they're using a just view all, not modify all, then they can see all the data. When they're having a modify all, view all will also get checked. So they can see all the data, they can edit, delete all those. Now, this is the administrative access. Now, basic level access. So basic is in basic access, read. So if you have this basic level of access, then only this data security will be applicable. For example, you made OWD as a public read, right? That means everybody in this org should be able to see all the records and edit all the records. But the user should have this basic level of access, then only they can do it. For example, for a given object, they don't have any of this read, edit, delete, create. They don't have any access to given object. For example, location. But OWD defined as a public read and write. That means everybody can do it. But at the profile level, you don't have a permission to see the object itself. Then whatever the data you're having access, it doesn't matter. So this basic level of access and data security. If you club this together, so you need to check which is having a least access that will be applicable to the user. When the basic level you don't have access, that means you don't have access. If you just have a read access here and here, whatever you give, user can see only read access to those records. If you give read and edit both the access, and in OWD you define as only private or only public or read only, because the minimum, which is when the sorry, profile level you have a read and edit, and in OWD you just give a public read only. So whichever is minimum, it will be applied. Minimum is only read, right? So that will be applicable to the users. When you have a public read, right, and here also read and edit, then only it will be applied read and edit to the users. Okay, similarly like delete, if you have delete permission, then only you are allowed to delete. If you have create permission, then only you are allowed to create the record. Okay, so in permission level, sorry, in profile and permission set, whatever the level of access you have been given, the actions what you are allowed to do, basic level, that, and the data security, whichever is having a minimum level, that will be applicable. If you give a administrative access at a profile level, it overrides all your data security and basic levels. Okay, that is what it control. Let me show you where we see this administrative and basic level of access. If you go to a profile, in profile, if you go to any specific object, okay, for example, take any some standard profile I'm taking for now, edit, and here I would like to see a access for a location object. So in the location object, what do you see here? Read, create, edit, delete, modify all, and so view all and modify all. These are the basic access, and these are the data administrative access. See here, data administrator. So check this box in the column if you want the users with this profile to have a view access to all of the select object type, regardless of sharing settings of the object. What the sharing setting means, all the OWD sharing rules, manage sharing, all your data security will what it means. It will override all of those. The basic level is you should have this, then only you do these actions. The read action can be done only if you have a read access. And create, edit, delete. How you can give access? You can edit and then give the access, because this is a standard profile. You don't have an option to change the access over here. Only on the custom profiles only you can to make changes. Okay, I'm going to profile. System administrator. I'm just cloning this profile and creating a one more profile here saying system admin. Just I'm giving some short name. Okay, I would like to edit here. And I can change whatever I want. I can give the permission over here. Okay, if I remove everything and if I try to select a view all permission, the automatical read will be given. So you cannot give a view all without read. Okay, similarly, if you give a modify all, you cannot remove any of it. Okay, modify all means all this will be applicable except the create. Okay, that is how administrative and basic access being given. And what are the permission set? When we use a permission set, when we want to give additional permissions on top of a profile, additional permission, only we can give through the permission set. We cannot restrict the permissions. We cannot give a additional permissions. For example, if I give a location, I'm saying a full access on location, for example. If I don't have any license needed for this one, and here what I will do, I will go to location and give a full access to it. Now here edit this object and I'll give a modify all access and create and give all access to these fields and do a save. That means if I assign this permission set to any users, if they don't have a location access, they will be added to it. If they're already having, it will doesn't make any change to them. But this will only give a additional access. Permission sets always give additional access. So whatever the permissions you control at a profile level, in permission set also we control the same. Basically, whether we're giving a basic level or data administrative access, that matters. That's how you need to understand how the access will be controlled in Salesforce by using all this data security and profiles and permission sets. Okay, that is all for the day, and you will be having some exercise to do, and I will share those exercises. Any questions you have?